Hey guys, this is Mr. Lowry. If you were absent this week in school, you missed an in-class project that we're working on that has to do with exponential growth. This week we kicked off what we call Zombie Week, which is actually more like 2 weeks this year, but it's a whole unit on exponential growth where you have to learn about and use ideas about exponential growth to kind of survive an imaginary zombie apocalypse. So on Monday we started with a simulation we did in real life. If you were here, if you weren't here, then I asked you to do that simulation online with a computer simulation. But you just kind of see about exponential growth and what it looks like. And this is a continuation of that idea. So this is kind of a packet here that we're going to work on over the next couple days in class. And if you missed class, then you're going to need to do this on your own. The first page here is just part of a story. Okay, so the story goes, and the story that we started in class on Monday, is that imagine that you're at UCAS and a zombie outbreak starts in the AC. There's one zombie in the AC and he starts biting students and turning them all into zombies. Okay, that was the first day. On this day, basically what's happening is you are going to pretend that you work for the government, you work for the Center for Disease Control, and you're trying to predict what's going to happen with this zombie virus. You're going to predict the growth of the zombie virus, basically. So this is just like a story part about what's happening in the story and what your job is to do. But in this activity, there's 3 tasks that you're going to do. So if you flip the page, you see task 1, create a data table. Task 2, create a graph. And then on the back, you got task 3, which is write a function. So you're modeling this exponential growth of this zombie virus as the zombie virus spreads. Okay, we're working on this in groups, but since you're probably going to be doing this on your own, you're going to need a little bit of extra help. And so I'm going to help you get started here. So make sure you have this printed out first, or something to write on so you can keep track of this. But this is the first task. Okay, some of this information is in the story on the front page, but this is just kind of like the highlights. Okay, so in the first 6 hours, patient 0, the zombie, infected one other person. Okay, so there was 2 people. After 12 hours, each of those 2 zombies bit one other person, and then you have 4 zombies total. Okay, after 18 hours, those 4 zombies each infected one other person, and you have 8 zombies now. So notice it's doubling. You started with 1 zombie, and then you have 2 zombies, 4 zombies, 8 zombies, and then 16 zombies. Okay, so what's happening is this. The zombie population is doubling every 6 hours. Okay, we're going to come back to these questions in just a minute. But what we're going to do now is we're going to turn to the table that I made. So the whole task here is to create a table. Okay, here's your table. So remember that every 6 hours the population is doubling. So down here we have hours, right? 0, 6, 12, 18, because again, every 6 hours the population doubles. So we need to continue the hours here. So we keep adding 6. So 30, 36, 42, 48, 54, 60, and so on all the way down the column. Okay, we're going in 6-hour increments on this side. Okay, now the population's doubling, so 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. So every time we go down, we're multiplying by 2, right? We are doubling. Okay, so if I wanted to go to the next one, did there be 16 zombies after in the next increment? Okay, 6 more hours go by. Now there's 32 zombies. 6 more hours go by. Now there's 64. Right? We're just doubling. We're just multiplying by 2 every time. Multiply by 2 again. You're going to get 128, and so on. Okay, so you're going to continue this table, and we're going to use this table for our graph later. Okay. Now the middle column is to help you keep track of how many times you've doubled. Okay, so think about this. You started with 1 zombie, right? And we took that 1 zombie and we multiplied it by 2 to get 2. And then we took that thing and we multiplied it by 2 again. So if we write it out like this, 1 times 2 times 2 equals 4, we can see how many times the population's doubled. Here's how many zombies there are, but this tells us how many times the population has doubled, right? So 1 times 2 times 2 times 2, that's 8. But when you see 2 times 2 times 2, you're like, oh, yeah, we've doubled 1, 2, 3 times. So 3 multiplied by 2, okay? Or 2 multiplied by itself 3 times, okay? So the next line would be 1 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, right? Now there's 4 2's all multiplied. 1 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. And you keep going. 1 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, right? So 5 2's all multiplied gives you 32. Now, after a while, this starts to get tedious. You start to get kind of like tired of writing, and you also start running out of space really quick. So the discussion that we had in class as we started making this table and as we got around this area and students started complaining, which was kind of the point, I wanted that to happen, is I wanted students to ask or to think about, is there a better, easier way to write this? And the answer is, there is. It's exponents, right? So instead of writing for this one 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 6 times, I'm going to write 1 times 2 to the 6th power. Right? So like this one, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could have written this one as 1 times 2 to the 5th. So if you want to do repeated multiplication, you use exponents. And that's one of the discussions we had in class. That's kind of one of the points of doing this exercise, is to think about exponents, right? Because we're talking about exponential growth, okay? So you need to continue filling out this table all the way down to the bottom, and we are going to use this data to make a graph in task 2, okay? So continue adding 6 on this column, continue adding, or doubling on this column, so you're multiplying by 2 every single time. So this next one is 256, and then you get 512, and then you get 1024, right? Just multiplying by 2 every single time. You can use a calculator for that, you're welcome to do that. And then in the middle column, we're using powers of 2, right? Every time we double, we're multiplying by another 2, which means the power of 2 needs to go up. Okay, so finish that guy. Over here, I've got one that's kind of all filled out, so you're gonna fill this out yourself. But once you have it filled out, we're gonna go back and look at these instructions again. Okay, so it says, continue the table to see when the Z virus has infected all of UCAS, which is about 630 people total. When it's infected all of Provo, which is about 120,000 people. When it's infected all of Utah County, which is about 600,000 people. When the zombie virus has infected all of Utah, 3 million people, and then the whole country is 330 million. So going back to our chart, we're looking for these key numbers. When is the population this high? So let's find a couple. Let's find out where 630 zombies is. Okay, so if we flip it back to our table, 630 is not on our table, so we have to figure out where it would go. Okay, so 630 would go somewhere in between these two guys, right? This is a little bit too small, this is a little bit too big. So in between 54 and 60 hours, somewhere in between there, the zombie population would overtake UCAS. So UCAS is gone after, or all infected after maybe about maybe 56 or 58 hours or something like that. Okay? Let's go back and look at the next guy. Okay, 120,000. Where's that going to go? Well, we got to go find where 120,000 is, or where it's going to fit. Okay, and that's the population of Provo, or at least it was when I made this. It might be more now. So if you go down here and you look for 120,000, well, there's 130,000. That's too big. Here's 65,000. That's too small. And so we're going to make a note on our table where that's going to go. So somewhere in between here, somewhere in between 96 and 102 hours, Provo is totally infected, totally overrun with zombies. Okay? And you're going to keep making those notes for the rest of these numbers. You need to finish your table first, obviously, or otherwise you're not going to see where this goes. And you got to find where, where is 600,000 on the table? Between what two numbers? How long is it going to take for Utah County, all of Utah County, to be gone? Okay, so let's find this one more together. So 600,000 is going to be somewhere in here. Okay, so this is Utah County. Somewhere in between 114 and 120 hours, Utah County's gone. Okay, so finish the table first, Okay? Then you can go back and you can make those markings, and we're going to use this table for task 2, which is to create a graph. Okay? So in the next video, once you're done with your table, once you've labeled everything, and you've got all this stuff here from task 1 done, we'll come back and we'll talk about the graph.